get you this little mic here. Well, why are you up? Flip over.
See the sign.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
All right, you should be good to go.
Thank you. Good evening. And thank you to Cameron and to Avena for allowing me to share my story here at the symposium. I'm on a mission, and my mission is this: to disrupt the current healthcare paradigm, to inspire people to become more responsible and accountable for their own health. And why do I want to do this? Because it breaks my heart to see so many people suffering with mediocre health, or worse, especially as we age. And what is even sadder is that so many people have decided to settle for this kind of mediocre health, because we've been conditioned to believe that that's as good as it gets. I don't believe it has to be like that. Let me take you on a journey, my journey to health. I call my journey my very own Dr. Roadshow. If you're fortunate, you have no idea what I'm talking about, in which case, let me enlighten you. A Dr. Roadshow is a health concern that leads to a seemingly endless series of appointments, tests with various different medical practitioners that typically lead to no real conclusion other than more appointments, maybe one or more prescriptions to help you manage whatever symptoms you're dealing with, and often ends in surgery. My Dr. Roadshows began some 30 years ago when I went to the doctor, complaining of fatigue. Well, Doc looks at me and says, well, you should be tired. You have 2 small children and you work full time. Seriously, I get being tired. I did have a busy life, don't we all? But what I didn't get was the bone crushing, feeling like a dish rag, fall asleep anywhere kind of exhaustion that I was dealing with. And when I say I could fall asleep anywhere, I'm serious. I could fall asleep anywhere. And I often did. I frequently fell asleep at work in the afternoon if I sat for too long at my desk. Often it was a real challenge for me to stay awake through my morning commute. At weekend get-togethers around the campfire, I would often pass out, even though I only had a drink or 2. My friends and family thought that was pretty funny. Ever notice how things are funny when it's not you? In any case, at that time, I was in my early 30s. Not my early 90s, my early 30s. Back then, I thought my diet was pretty decent. Certainly it's much better now, and I continue to work to improve it. But I've tried to be conscious over the years about what I put into my body. I quit smoking some 30 years ago. I took up aerobics to help maintain my weight, and then I eventually started running, something that I've kept up over the past 20 years. I love being active. So on the days that I don't run, I incorporate movement into my life. I also, 20 minutes on my rebounder each morning is a great way to start my day. I also love walking, and despite my fear of heights, hiking in the hills kind of fires up every neuron in my body. I also became a bit of a supplement junkie. As Cameron always says, grandma's tomato is not my tomato. Most of our food is so nutritionally depleted that I believe supplements are now a requirement for a healthy diet. But despite cleaning up my lifestyle, I was still struggling with issues. And so began my first Dr. Roadshow that culminated with the removal of most of my thyroid just after I turned 30. I had lumps on my thyroid. I went for a litany of tests to determine if they were cancerous. Ultimately, they told me they couldn't determine whether or not they were cancerous without surgery. And then they told me that if I didn't choose the surgery at that time, they would monitor my thyroid and my lumps and see if they changed at all, and then in which case they would have to take out my thyroid. So they weren't really asking for my consent, they were essentially telling me what I would be doing. When I look back on it now, I realize that my lack of knowledge about my body and my health left me in a position where I had essentially given away my own personal power. They told me it was a simple surgery. All I would need to do was just supplement with thyroid hormone after I was done. Easy peasy, or so it seemed. So I thought it was the best and easiest decision to make. Just take out my thyroid, I can easily carry on with my life. Not my best decision, and I wouldn't do it again in hindsight. But at the time, I just didn't know any better. So after my surgery, Doc prescribed Synthroid, and he wasn't at all interested in hearing how I was feeling on that medication. So it took me several years to discover that there was actually a better alternative than the Synthroid that I was on, and then yet more time and investigation to find a local doctor who would actually prescribe natural thyroid for me. I felt better, but still not good. I have actually just recently switched to a thyroid supplement as I lost faith again in the pharmaceutical thyroid that I was prescribed, once again after doing my own research. How I wish I knew then what I know now, because I now believe that that surgery was totally unnecessary for me. I wish I'd had access to Avena and their iodine back in the day before I consented to the surgery. Consented, maybe acquiesced is a better word. I like to joke that I donated my thyroid to medical research. Again, funny if it's not you, but it wasn't really funny. Ultimately, that surgery became the catalyst for me to do my own research and actually take back control of my body and my health. Next, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure in my mid-30s. Mystery high blood pressure, given that my lifestyle precluded such a condition. I should have seen this one coming in hindsight. I was diagnosed with toxemia during my last trimester of both of my pregnancies. And I've since learned that conditions that manifest during pregnancy are often the epitome of the canary in the coal mine when it comes to health issues in later life. So it's not really a surprise that my blood pressure became yet another one of my issues. When I asked Doc about maybe adding in more calcium or magnesium to my diet to see if that made a difference, his response was more or less a derisive chuckle, essentially saying, yeah, diet, minerals, they don't have any effect on your blood pressure. This was a young doctor too, not some 70-year-old who had been educated decades earlier. So it's not like this was outdated thinking. He did, however, give me some nutritional advice. He recommended that I cut back on salt. I rarely used salt back in the day, so I didn't believe that that was my issue, and also didn't see it as much of a solution. I actually use more salt now than I did back then. The difference now is in the quality of salt that I'm using. I long ago gave up refined salt and switched to Avena sea salt, because I know that good salt is actually good for me. Once again, education is key. So in addition to the nutritional counseling on cutting back on salt, Doc proceeded to write me a prescription for an ACE inhibitor to lower my blood pressure. Now, potential side effects from the ACE inhibitor can include things like headache, dizziness, low blood pressure, renal impairment, and liver dysfunction. So let me get this straight. I can take something to lower my blood pressure, but it could negatively impact my liver and my kidneys. This didn't sound like a fix to me, more like trading one symptom for another. And I don't need a medical degree to understand how important my kidneys and my liver are to my general health. Oh, and ACE inhibitors, they can also help to deplete your body of zinc, low levels of which can lead to slow wound healing, increased infection, and higher risk of cancer. So on top of my blood pressure issue, I was slowly but surely putting on weight, despite my decent diet, despite the fact that I ran 4 to 6 times a week, an hour each time. Now, I was only putting on a pound or 2 a month, but still, why would I be putting on weight despite my lifestyle? No one had an answer for me other than the well-worn axiom, well, you're getting older and your metabolism is slowing down. I didn't believe that then, I don't believe it now. For the record, my weight is now about the same as it was before I had my children. I try to make healthy food choices. I never count calories, nor do I diet. I believed that my excess weight was a symptom of an issue. So instead of dealing with the weight, I worked at getting healthier, and the weight issue has resolved on its own. Now, next on my list Back when I was a teenager, I often struggled with acne. Now, it mostly cleared up in my early 20s and then came back, of course, when I was pregnant in my late 20s. Now, that same acne was a sporadic affair during my 30s, but in my late 40s, it morphed into an all-out battle with cystic acne. Now, if you've ever had acne, or worse yet, cystic acne, you know how difficult it can be to face the world. Pardon the pun. I struggled a lot. I skipped out on a lot of my life because I couldn't face going out in public during those breakouts. And not only is cystic acne really hard on the confidence, it's incredibly painful. And the breakouts can last for weeks. That's a long time to feel bad about how you look and to hide from your life. So despite numerous visits to doctors and dermatologists, yet another Dr. Roadshow, the only option given to me was antibiotics, which I took for a whole year. Think about what that did to my gut biome, a whole year. Until I finally realized that taking those antibiotics permanently, well, that was conventional medicine's answer for my issue, but it wasn't a solution. What I did finally find as a solution to my cystic acne was Avena. Herb cocktail, enzymes, both enhanced and super digested enzymes, and probiotics are part of my daily regimen every day for the past 5 years or so. And while I still struggle with the occasional breakout if I don't eat well, I haven't had a cystic acne breakout in as long as I can remember, sometime after I started using Avena. Oh yes, and no unwanted side effects from using Avena products. I'm still working to heal my liver from that year of antibiotics. One article that I read recently said that the long-term use of antibiotics can permanently alter your gut bacteria. I don't know for sure if that's true. I don't know if anybody knows that yet. But I do know that if I hadn't taken control of my own health, I'd still be on either those antibiotics or something even stronger. And who knows what other issues I'd be dealing with as a result. So as you can see, by this time in my life, I was slowly but surely educating myself, working to solve my own health puzzles. I'd pretty much given up on conventional medicine, as the only options offered to me were either drugs or surgery or both. And while those options addressed symptoms, they weren't getting at root cause. And anyone who knows me knows that my favorite question is why? And why is about root cause. So in my corporate work, I have decades of experience in accounting and payroll, as well as implementing and troubleshooting software. For any issue that I find, I need to find root cause, because that's how you fix the problem. If your payroll package is calculated incorrectly, you don't just arbitrarily add and subtract dollars to someone's paycheck to make it correct. And you don't tell people to learn to live with it. So in my corporate work, I work to figure out why it's not correct, as in root cause, and deal with the root cause so that the calculations are correct. I use the same model when it comes to my health issues. I want to know root cause so I can address those specific issues. So after giving up on conventional medicine, ever being able to help me find root cause, I started down the natural route. And I've been everywhere, man. Naturopaths, homeopaths, herbalists, nutritional counseling, live blood cell analysis, food sensitivity testing, allergy testing, BHRT, regular massage therapy, Thai massage, acupuncture, laser therapy, chiropractic, reflexology, rolfing, Bowen therapy, yoga, kundalini yoga, breath work, meditation, Watsu, pinhole classes, neurotech, how about vitamin D therapy? If I heard about it, I was eager to investigate it and to eventually try it. And ultimately, this has become my Dr. Roadshow. I'm happy to report that my results have been much better since I started down this road. Oh, and supplements. Years ago, I started buying supplements at the local health food stores. I never saw or felt much improvement, but I kept at it in an attempt to feel better. And I kept at it because tenacity is my middle name, sometimes even my first name. About half a dozen years ago, I was introduced to my first direct market supplements. And truth be told, these were the first products that I actually used that actually made me feel better. How exciting, because I finally felt like I was onto something. Over these past few years, I spent a lot of time trying different products. I've attended dozens of meetings for these different products. Different products, different meetings, different people, Same theme. Turns out I'm a real fan of the products, not so much a fan of the method of promoting the products. I'm kind of every upline's nightmare when it comes to the typical MLM marketing model. You know, the one where you talk to everyone with a pulse and get them to sign up as your distributor. Along the way, however, I have found so many good products that represent real healing potential for people. And as part of my mission to disrupt the current system, I'm passionate about educating people on the products that are out there. I love the idea of promoting supplements as opposed to medications, but I also believe that health coaching and support are a critical piece of the health journey. So I was stoked when a friend introduced me to Avena Originals, products that are unrivaled in quality, a local Canadian company, a direct marketing model that also allows for stocking of products, support and knowledge from years in the health business, customers that can purchase directly without the need for the much maligned monthly auto ship. The Avena product and sales model checks all the boxes. So thanks to my efforts over the years, I now feel better that I just turned 60 than I did when I was in my 30s. I have more energy. I sleep better. My breakouts are a distant memory. I'm on 0 medications. 0. Most people even half my age can't make those claims, never mind those my age and older. And how have I managed that? Well, in a nutshell, I've taken back my own personal power. I've become more accountable and responsible for my own health. All those years back, when I was offered yet more prescriptions, 3 to be exact, to help with my latest acne breakouts, I decided I was done letting someone else tell me what was best for my body. And therein lies the key. I decided for myself what I wanted to do next. I have since found natural products to replace my prescription medicines, and I found the support that I need to make informed decisions about my own health. My friend Deanne Rondeau, founder of the health group Your Holistic Earth, uses the line, "People are living shorter and dying longer." That this is so true is what makes it so incredibly sad. We can see it in the younger generation, but I also see it epitomized in the quality of life in the people in my generation and older. I watched my mother as her memory failed her to the point that she no longer recognized her own children. Anyone who has ever witnessed that type of experience in the life of a loved one knows how heart-wrenching it is. I work with a lot of women my age who have such brain fog, they have trouble retaining information from one day to the next. What does the future look like for them? And take a look around at the people in your life. How many people in your life do you know are happy or even satisfied with the quality of life? Well, I'm here to tell you that my journey and my quality of life are proof that you do not have to settle. So when and how do we actually decide to give away our power? Well, let's see. It's not really a conscious decision as such, but do you watch television? Do you read the newspaper? Maybe you peruse the headlines online, or you listen to the chatter at the water cooler. We don't live our lives in a vacuum, so all of this noise makes an impact on our thoughts and our actions, especially if we're not making an effort to live a truly conscious existence. When I was out running recently, running through one of the local parks, I glanced up and saw this sign, slow to 30 kilometers, playground zone. My initial reaction, my first thought, my automatic response was to think I needed to slow down. I was running. Now, I love to run. Anyone who knows me can attest to that. I've been running for over 20 years, but I'm a slow and steady. My actual running speed is more like 7 to 8 kilometers per hour, as you can see. So the idea that I needed to slow down after I saw that sign is an example of how we're conditioned to react to what we are told without consciously evaluating the instruction or the circumstances. We don't necessarily think, we just obediently act. The other part of the equation here is following the status quo, or not following the status quo. It often feels like a big scary world if we're not doing the same thing everyone else is doing, so we can feel really vulnerable. And so we go through the gate, even though there isn't a fence. Let me give you another example. A couple of years back, I participated in a relay race in the mountains. So I'm waiting at the start of the race, of my race lane, and as is custom before any running race, we all have to use the facilities. Now, we don't necessarily have a physical need, but nerves tell us we do, so we all line up to do our business. And the facilities here are really quite nice, no porta potty. It's an actual building structure with two, count them, two separate washrooms, very similar to the one in the picture here. And as I'm standing in line, Buddy comes out of the left washroom. Let's call it door number 1. And next running buddy goes in. No action from door number 2. The exchange continues at the first washroom and the line moves, slowly, of course. I watch this scene repeat a couple of times before I finally ask the obvious question. Is there anyone behind door number 2? Shrugs all around. And door number 1 revolves again. One of the runners bends down to see if she can see legs in the second bathroom. She decides she can't see anything from that view, so another shrug, and the process continues. Well, at this point, I decide I no longer want to be part of this science experiment. So I go and knock on door number 2. No answer. I try the door. It's unlocked. I open the door and the facility is empty. I turn and smile back at the lineup of runners, and blank stares are all I get back. But this is a prime example of how we give away our power. We assume everyone else knows, or they know better, or we're just afraid to question because we don't want to look foolish. Now in this example, there is no life-changing result. The line did move faster after that, twice as fast actually. But when it comes to questioning generally held beliefs about health, the consequences can be a much bigger deal, as in you can lose your thyroid over it. Now I'm not advocating that you ditch all of your current medical prescriptions and advice. That would be just plain foolish. But what I am saying is that it's okay to question what you were told. It's okay to do your own investigation. And more importantly, it's critical that you question what you were told if you want to take an active role in your own health. Part of that questioning is doing your own research. I've spent hundreds, actually probably more like thousands of hours over the years doing my own research. Reading books, watching documentaries, digging through countless articles on the internet. PubMed.gov can be an excellent source of information. I've also taken several online health coaching certificate programs that were a wealth of information for me. I've signed up for more than a few free online docuseries. I attend health and wellness shows such as this one, the Avena conference. You can also attend Avena talks once a month in Edmonton. Those monthly meetings, they cost you nothing but a couple of hours of your time, and the information is priceless. The Avena website also contains a plethora of information, including podcasts, newsletters, and delicious raw recipes. There's really a never-ending source of, or supply of information available to us if we're willing to spend the time on it. Now, it's important to recognize, too, that just because the information is delivered via the television or other conventional media doesn't necessarily make it complete and correct. And conversely, just because you find the information on the internet doesn't mean it's incorrect and incomplete. It's up to us as thinking beings to make knowledgeable decisions based on the information that we gather. So, biohacking. Unless you've been living under a rock, I'm assuming you've heard the term biohacking. Can be defined as the process of making changes to your lifestyle in order to hack your body's biology and feel your best. Some of the current and popular biohacking tools today might include supplements. Maybe you're following a paleo diet. Take up meditation. How about drinking celery juice or grounding? Or a couple of my favorites, inversion therapy and rebounding. I purchased a rebounder from Avena a few years back, and I love to start my day with 20 minutes of jumping while I listen to something educational or inspirational. Exercise, learning, inspiration. Is there a better way to start the day? I'm kind of a health nut nerd in that sense. It goes back to what I said earlier. If I hear about a trend that sounds intriguing and unconventional, I do some investigating. If it looks at all promising, I give it a try. And when I'm doing my research on anything at all, I look for negative reviews. I want to know what those negative reviews are and if there's any substance or validity to them. For example, a few years back, I was researching a holiday resort. And I found a particularly negative sounding review of the resort we were looking at staying at. Well, it turns out the reviewer was totally slamming that resort because, get this, it wasn't that the resort was filthy. It wasn't that the resort was overrun by bugs. It wasn't that they felt unsafe at the resort. It was that the resort did not have cranberry juice to serve up at breakfast. Now think about this, you're staying in a third world country and the resort does not have cranberry juice. Talk about your first world problems. Now, I could have chosen not to book that resort because I saw the numbers of that negative review without actually reading the details. But it turns out, I read that review, we stayed there, and we had a fabulous time. It was a beautiful resort. But again, another excellent example of why it's important to research and then to think critically about that research. And that's essentially what I've done over the years in order to improve my own health. I've cleaned up my diet. I include regular exercise as a part of my daily routine. I've also just started meditating on a daily basis, which I really love. I add in any and all biohacking tools that I believe will help to improve my health. Things like premium quality Avena probiotics and enzymes, an excellent protein product, and herbs as needed. And of course, lots of fruits and vegetables. Now, in my opinion, I'm not convinced that any one product that I take or use is responsible for my improved health, but I believe they all help. Our bodies are the sum of the whole. And I'm up here talking because I want people to believe that there is hope for a better health. And some of that hope is available right here at this event. Talk to any of the Avena staff or the customers, and you'll find a common theme. We all have our own story, and we all want to help make a difference in the world, and the Avena products can help with making that difference. So I can't promise that there's any magic bullet here that will change your health, but I can promise you that if you start taking control and responsibility for your own health, you will find that there are so many more options out there that you were previously unaware of. And these options are what gives me hope for my future roadshow as well as yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Benita. Thank you. That's awesome. I totally might just steal your phrase of a health nut nerd. Because it's very much, I feel you. That's speaking my language. I love to research. I love to learn. And